just wanted to react as a former school administrator. And what I was trying to figure out when I was an administrator and I'd see ineffective teaching or at least problematic teaching is there are a bunch of competing values at stake in those interactions. One value is the teacher's right to due process. You know, one value is the well-being of students. You know? One value is whether or not you're committed to helping all people grow and develop, not just children, but adults as well. So you have a lot of different kind of competing values going on as you try to figure out that situation. And in my own experience, I could document and get rid of grossly incompetent teachers. I just had to do the work, you know,
Right.
and I think that's appropriate. I shouldn't be able to just fire you and say you're grossly incompetent. But I could do that if I did the observations, I did the documentation, and whenever I did that, the union was right with me. And they would say to me, "What's taking you so long? Get it done." Okay? But there are areas that are harder to discern, where you get real mixed pictures and a teacher is real uneven. Or a teacher is good with some kids but not others. Or there's this sort of blip in the there. So you find yourself trying to sort yourself through what's in whose best interest as you work yourself through that complicated problem. And I think it's too easy sometimes when people say, unions protect bad teachers. No, they protect rights of due process and fair treatment. Does adhering to that principle sometimes keep an ineffective teacher with children for a while? Yes. Now, is that a trade-off we can take or not?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we have. It's sort of like how many civil liberties do you give up to have eavesdropping for national security? I mean,
Right. I
it's
think
a value
you're-
tensions, you know. It's like,
You're on the fact that you're going to make sure
So
you
it's a
do it
mess,
right.
is what
And
I'm
I'm happy to hear that you did it right and you were committed to that, because that's what we want administrators to do, is to commit to the process. And sometimes administrators said, yeah, I should fire this person, but, you know, I believe in this person. And
or
they'll
I
hold
don't
off.
have the guts to do that,
Right.
and so I'm just going to let it go.
Yeah.
You know, one of the interesting pieces of the process that she's describing here is that while the union may, can, and shall provide assistance to its member, we're restricted by law of only dealing with the process. So even if I'm convinced that you are the world's most outstanding teacher, we don't step into the discussion around the delivery of the instruction or how you did it, about your objectives and your lesson plans. We are restricted to the process. So it really is the work that the administrators have to do for documentation if they feel that someone's ineffective.
I was just going to bring up the same sort of contested terrain thing that you just brought up, the issue of when you look at the incentive pay, the thing that I'm still left sort of swirling with after all this is I understand the union's position on the issue of teachers and what constitutes better and more deserving. But I'm also curious as to how that plays out for children. And if the union is looking out for teachers and their due process, who's looking out for the due process of the students in the classrooms? And what happens if I'm stuck with not a grossly incompetent teacher, but a teacher who doesn't teach me, but might teach them? And what happens then to me over 1 year with a teacher like that, 2 years with teachers like that, 3, 4, 5, or 12 with teachers like that?
Believe me, the union looks out for that too, because and if you know our president, you know, she's always telling us, kids come first. Sometimes you're saying, remember, you know, it could be to the detriment of the members. She's saying kids come first. So she wants us to see how these things are affecting the teacher, whether this teacher should stay in the classroom. And some of the school districts, since they don't know, it's a gray area, they move the teacher out of the classroom and put the teacher someplace else. And they're not quite sure, so they're doing their investigation and so forth. So I think the administrators, they take that into consideration. I think the union, working with the administrators, take that into consideration, and our organization takes that into consideration.
Yeah, I would like to ditto that, because if a parent or a student or someone makes an allegation about a teacher that the school staff, the school board staff feels is critical, that would impact the child, you can believe me, they're out of the classroom someplace else until the investigation is completed. That doesn't take long at all. That could take an hour.
I think we're going to have to call it to an end. But before we do, I want to really thank all the students who participated.